Yes, thanks so
ना
much, Kritika. Yeah, thanks so much.
तेरे को प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं?
Yeah.
இரு unmute இல்ல.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason why we are having this particular webinar is because during the course itself, we don't get much opportunity to dwell on the things apart from the Mandala Vatika. Yeah. So there we talk about the sacred geometry, we talk about frequencies, we talk about plants as carrier waves. And all that, and all of you have done the courses earlier. Most of you, at least, have done the courses earlier. So you know how involved we get, drawing the mandala, exploring the mandala, and all that. But it's also important for us to know that if we take, for example, a Kartikeya or a Murugan, as he is known in the South today, he is also a mythological figure. He is also a historical figure. Okay, so there is this particular wave function or tattva which exists in many dimensions in our universe. It exists in the dimension of tattvas or wave frequencies, or it exists in mythology in the Puranic traditions, and it exists as historical figure, actual human beings who imbibed about that particular tattva. So, understanding this background of mythology and history of Kartikeya prepares us to explore the mandala of Kartikeya. Yeah. So, I thought that I would take this opportunity, roughly about 45 minutes or 50 minutes I'll speak, and hopefully take some questions from you. But I thought that, let us try to familiarize ourselves, because when you Google Kartikeya, it is the most confusing thing to do. Yeah. Most of us think that Kartikeya is a deity who is Tamilian. Yeah. And it is only in the Tamil tradition that you will find this Muruga, Kartikeya and all that. Yeah. I mean, Northerners have heard a little bit about it, but he's not a mainstream deity, or he's not a mainstream god, so to speak. लेकिन ये सबसे गलत फहमी है, क्योंकि कार्तिकेय जो है एक्चुअली वो उसका पूरा प्रचार हुआ था, उसका इंपॉर्टेंस दिया गया था नॉर्थ इंडिया में. काफी हमारी हिस्ट्री में जो है वो एक नॉर्थ इंडियन डेटी ही रहा, और ओनली मॉडर्न टाइम्स में जो है वो साउथ में पॉपुलराइज हुआ है, स्पेशली इन द तमिल ट्रेडिशन. बट उसका आप ओरिजिन देखें, पूरा भारतवंश में जो है, अगर उसका ओरिजिन देखें, इफ यू सी द ओरिजिन ऑफ कार्तिकेय and the way Kartikeya was given eminence, it happened in the northern parts of the Indian subcontinent. And it is only later that Kartikeya became a deity more revered in the south and less known in the north. So I need you to understand what happens when you Google and find such confusing aspects of Kartikeya. In the northern tradition, Kartikeya is the older brother. And in the southern tradition, he is the younger brother to Lord Ganesha. Yeah. Then in the north, he is considered a celibate. He never got married. But in the south, he has got 2 wives. Okay. And there has been no other god. ऐसा कोई देवी या देवता आपको हमारी ट्रेडिशन में नहीं मिलेंगे whose claim for parentage is so vast. Everybody wants to become his father or mother. You will find Shiva taking claim. You will find Agni taking claim. You will find Vayu taking claim. You will find Ganga taking claim. You will find the Kartikas taking claim. You will find Vishnu taking claim. it is just so confusing. Everybody seems to want to have something to do with him, preferably as his parent, because then they are getting their hierarchy based on him. So अगर उसको मेरा बेटा बना दिया तो मेरा स्टेटस जो है ऊपर चला गया. So it is very fascinating. So when you look at Kartikeya, if you Google Kartikeya, first of all, he is known by many names: Subramanya, Shanmukha, Skanda, all these Muruga, all these names, all Murugan, all these names are there. And if you see lately in our art of living, Pujya Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar ji has sort of really reintroduced Murugan into our lives. Yeah, the Murugan Rahasya and the 3 powers of Muruga, wonderful, wonderful narrations from Gurudev himself on this immense tattva of Murugan, or Kartikeya, as he is known in the north. Yeah. So today let us just try to explore why all this happens. And this actually is not really peculiar only to Kartikeya. Even if I had done this for Durga in the Mandala Vatika, I got to speak only a very little bit about the cultural context, the historical context, and the mythological context of Durga. How that, I spoke about this conflict between domesticating a woman and the power of Shakti. We want the power of Shakti, but we want to domesticate her at home. And this conflict, that chaos theory and all that we explored. So those were beautiful explorations. But, we need to understand really what happens. Why does something that was so beautifully experienced by the people who invoked the tattva of Kartikeya become so complicated by the time it becomes the 20th century? Okay, so let me do a quick screen share and take you through this process, and hopefully we will try to get a glimpse into what I want to speak about. Yeah. So a historical perspective, and it's also the mythological perspective. So now whenever you take an exploration like we do in Mandala Vatika, the first row, you have got Shiva, Shakti, you've got Murugan, and then you've got the tattva or the frequency. Now this perspective is what we'll actually explore in January. How do you invoke the tattva, the wave function or the frequency or the consciousness of Kartikeya into your life? That is what we will actually be doing in January. But what we will be doing today is we will be exploring the mythological perspective and the historical perspective of Kartikeya. तो आज हम देखेंगे कि अपना पुराण में इसके बारे में क्या बताए हैं और हमारी इतिहास में कार्तिकेय को कहां स्थापित किए थे हम लोग, इसके बारे में हम देखेंगे. बाकी जो मंडला है, मंडला वाटिका है, जहां हम वो तत्व को कैसे हम वो ऊर्जा को हमारी जिंदगी में ले आएंगे, वो तो हम जनवरी में कोर्स में देखेंगे, है ना. तो लेकिन अभी इसकी अन्य विचार जो है हम एक्सप्लोर करेंगे. नाउ अगर आप ये देखते हैं कि लेट मी जस्ट show you what I am talking about here. Let me try to move this fellow down. Yeah. Okay. Now, many of us, when we talk about Vedic tradition, जब हम वेद की बात करते हैं ना, एक्चुअली हमारे दिमाग में जो है कुछ ज्यादा क्लैरिटी नहीं रहता कि इतिहास में रामायण कहाँ था, महाभारत कहाँ था, वेदांत और उपनिषद कब आए, पुराण की जो स्ट्रक्चर था वो कहां से शुरू हुआ, फिर जो महापुरुष थे, एनलाइटेंड मास्टर्स थे, गौतम बुद्ध, महावीर, शंकराचार्य, वो लोग कहां आए इतिहास के टाइमलाइन में. तो मैंने ये कोशिश किया हूं कि बहुत एक्चुअली ये आप गूगल में जाएंगे ना तो बहुत ही कंफ्यूजिंग है, क्योंकि हर एक हिस्टोरियन जो है उसका खुद का इंटरप्रिटेशन रहता है कि कब क्या हुआ था। और मोस्टली जो ये प्री हिस्टोरिक, यानी अगर इफ वी टॉक अबाउट 3000 BC or beyond, earlier to that, then it is mostly the Western scholars who will tell you what is happening in the world. So they are not really clued on to how old our Vedic civilization is. तो दे डेट द वैदिक सिविलाइजेशन समवेयर टू अराउंड 2000 BC. अभी ये जहां मेरा कर्सर है, अभी माउस है, ये जगह में कहीं वो लोग बताते हैं कि ये जगह में जो है आपका वैदिक सिविलाइजेशन हुआ। और 1500 BC से लेके जो है 500 BC तक जो है आपका वेद की जमाना, योर वैदिक era was somewhere there. That is what they say. Actually it is totally wrong. यहां भी मैं बहुत कंजर्वेटिव लिया हूं 10,000 BC तक. I have just taken up to 10,000 BC here. But I am very, very sure that our Vedic tradition dates back even much before that. 25,000 BC, 50,000 BC. I'm very, very sure that it is there, but it has not been explored. Very recently, we found 7,500 BC. We found excavations where you had very advanced civilization in the Haryana Punjab region, which dates back 7,500 BC. And this was just discovered. I'm talking about less than 10 years ago. तो अगर उतना एडवांस सिविलाइजेशन वहां था 7,500 BC में, ऑलमोस्ट आप देख लीजिए 10,000 साल पहले की बात कर रहा हूं मैं, तो इसका मतलब जो है, जो सिविलाइजेशन का जो traditions the, the culture must have existed much before that. So Vedic civilization is got something that is, let us put, okay, theek hai, let us take 10,000 BC as a sort of a starting point. Then did you know that our entire Ramayana historically is dated to around 7,500 BC? Now this is according to the latest research that has been done by the Archaeological Survey of India, who have dated the temples, who have dated the ruins, especially in the south where you have the connection between Sri Lanka and India. They have actually done the radioactive dating of all those remains, and they have said that Ramayana jo hai, it should have been somewhere around 7,500 BC. Mahabharata, if we take, it is somewhere between 2000 BC to 1500 BC, and roughly they say 1750 BC. That is where the Mahabharata took place. Okay. Now, the Indus Valley civilization, जो हम Saraswat civilization जो हम कहते हैं, the civilization that existed on the banks of the river Saraswati. Okay. Now that civilization, वो civilization जो है, which today the relics of that civilization are found in the Gangetic Plain as well as on the coast. Gujarat, you come to Maharashtra, the Konkan, you have something called the Saraswat Brahmins who lay their lineage to that Saraswat civilization. So the mythical river Saraswati was the cradle for this civilization, the Indus Valley civilization. And somewhere from at least 5,000 BC, this civilization had an oral tradition of Vedas. मतलब वेद को लिखा नहीं गया था, लिपि में लिखा नहीं गया था, लेकिन वो हम उसकी मंत्र या चांट्स जो है, चांटिंग तो, और चांटिंग और उसके अंडरस्टैंडिंग, the understanding of the Vedic tradition existed definitely from around 5,000 BC all the way up to around 1,500 BC. So this is the oral Vedic tradition. The written Vedic, somewhere about 2000 BC to about maybe around 750 BC, this area is when the Vedas were actually written, because the Vedic language is quite different from Sanskrit. Sanskrit is the lipi for the written Vedic tradition, but the words in the Vedas are different. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them. The same word in Sanskrit and the same word in the Vedic literature can have two very different meanings, which is why we have a lot of confusion. People who try to just translate Vedas, if you translate the Rig Veda just as if it is a Sanskrit language, then it does not have that impact. It does not give the true meaning of the Veda. Because in the Vedic tradition, that language was something different. Yeah. So what the historians say that the Vedic civilization started around 2000 BC and went on till about 750 BC. They are talking about when Vedas got written. Okay. Now, then you see that around 500 BC, a lot of things start to happen. First thing, around 400, 450 BC, you had the start of Buddhism. Yeah. Buddhism itself took, Jainism, Mahavira came there, and you had the Vedantas and the Upanishads. Now, these are all the shakas. They are the schools of thought which interpreted the Vedas. So the Vedantas and the Upanishads were interpretation of the Vedas. Now, what caused Buddhism and Jainism to happen here is something that we must understand. If we want to understand the confusion about why Kartikeya is so, it is so differently interpreted by different people at different times, we need to understand what really happened in our own history. Now, when you take this entire Vedic civilization, say from before 10,000 years all the way up to 1750 BC, somewhere in this entire era, it was one of the most advanced civilizations. वहां आपको ये सिविलाइजेशन के एक्सकवेशन में अभी तक आपको कोई बड़ा स्ट्रक्चर मिलता ही नहीं है, except for a large bath jahan nahate the log, when people used to have a bath. Except for a large bath, there were no structures, but you had the most beautifully designed cities. You had underground drainage systems. You had granaries. You knew their agriculture was fantastic. And if you see the script and the symbols on the script, you will find that it was a very egalitarian society. Egalitarian का मतलब क्या है कि हर एक को उनको ये समझ था कि उनको क्या करने का है. Everybody knew their roles and responsibilities. In the Vedic civilization, you never had need for huge temples. You never had need for huge palaces. Everybody lived knowing what was required. Everybody lived knowing what was required of them. There was no, in fact, they say probably there were no kings as such to rule, because everybody knew their roles and responsibility. राम राज्य जो बोलते हैं ना हम, कि हर एक को पता था कि मुझे समाज में क्या करने का है. मुझे कोई पुलिस नहीं चाहिए, मुझे कोई आर्मी नहीं चाहिए, मुझे कोई डंडा लेके मेरे पीछे पड़ने का नहीं है, मुझे पता है. तो इतना एडवांस्ड एक कल्चर जिसमें उनको पूरा अंडरस्टैंडिंग था. एंड हम लोग वी हैव सीन इन आवर मंडला वाटिका, व्हेन वी गो डीप इनटू द ट्रूथ ऑफ दैट वैदिक सिविलाइजेशन, वेयर वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, लेट अस से, द ओरिजिन ऑफ द यूनिवर्स. ये पूरा ब्रह्मांड कैसा सृष्टि हुआ इन नासदीय सूक्ता. We find that their understanding was beyond anything. Lekin, when it came to around 1500 BC and the written Vedic tradition started, you will see a lot changed. And you started seeing the varnas, yeah, that is the caste system. ये ब्राह्मण क्षत्रिय वैश्य शूद्रा की जो कास्ट सिस्टम हुआ वो इधर से शुरू होता है. So when written Vedic tradition started, you had this happening, and you had people who challenged this. माने कि उन्होंने ये बोलना शुरू किया कि वेद वेद का रेलेवेंस खत्म हो गया है हमारी जिंदगी में. आप इतना उसको स्ट्रिक्ट कर दिया है आपकी वैदिक ट्रेडिशंस को कि उसका जो ओरिजिनल रस था, द एसेंस ऑफ द वेदास, people started to challenge. They said that this rigid societal structure of castes, where the Brahmins were the top and the Shudras were at the bottom, this entire thing people started to challenge. And the first one to really challenge this was Gautam Buddha. And that's where Buddhism started, along with around the same time Mahavira, Jainism. That also, basically, they challenged and they said that our life is not governed by some gods or karma or anything. We are responsible for our lives and we have to take responsibility for our lives. And that is where Buddhism said, path of the middle path, the eightfold path, and the golden middle golden line and things like that, where they said that we have to take responsibility, otherwise we will be in misery all the time. So detachment from our actions and detachment, we have to be responsible for our feelings, nobody else is responsible for our feelings. So this complete challenge, and here you see Buddhism and Jainism starting. Now when Buddhism and Jainism started, a lot of the Vedic scholars, they started to get very worried कि ये पूरा हमारा जो वैदिक कल्चर है ये अभी खत्म हो जाएगा. तो the Vedanta Upanishad concept, the commentaries became very important. But उधर भी बहुत conflicts थे. There was Dvaitya philosophy, there was Advaitya philosophy, बहुत conflicts. And really people started to lose more and more people to Buddhism and Jainism. Buddhism and Jainism started flourishing in a massive way. कहीं भी जाइए आप, you will find empires after empires, the Mauryan Empire, the Kushan Empire, all the big empires started to embrace Buddhism. Emperor Ashoka and the story of how he promoted Buddhism. So all this started in a big way. And therefore, you will find around 500 current era, our what we call in the olden days, we call this 500 AD after Christ. So the 500 current era mein, you had the Puranic tradition starting to emerge, where they started to bring the local people's beliefs and started connecting it with the tradition of the Vedic understanding, the Vedanta and the Upanishad understandings. You had the Puranic culture which started. And till about Shankaracharya's time. Now Shankaracharya came in somewhere around 300 AD. And there you find that he was the one who again, questioned and argued against Buddhism and Jainism. And he brought back the Upanishads and the Vedanta understanding, and he brought that back into the mainstream. So Hinduism again started to get its importance after this. Now, when you see this way of how Hinduism and this Vedic civilization, so Vedic civilization, the understanding it had, उनकी जो जान पहचान था लाइफ के या पूरा ब्रह्मांड पे जो उनकी जान पहचान था, वो तो there is no comparison. There is no other civilization in the world that comes even close to this. But Hinduism as a religion, when it started to happen with its caste system and everything, then it faced a lot of problems till Shankaracharya and other people like Madhavacharya and all these people started to bring back the tradition and try to explain to people that, this concept of caste, etc., not to be looked at in that way, etc. So that is the timeline that you understand. Now, in this understanding, let us try to understand key. One second. Yeah. Let us try now to understand Kartikeya's place in this. So if you take the mythology, so mythology means where you're talking about this portion in this Puranic tradition. Yeah. Skanda Purana. So in this Puranic tradition, there's an entire Purana, the Puran, that is about Kartikeya. Okay. Now, if you take the birth of Kartikeya, there are so many different versions of the birth of Kartikeya. Yeah. So, yes, in some cases, Shiva is the one who creates Kartikeya. In some, it is Agni who creates Kartikeya. In some, it is a combination of many people: Agni, Vayu, Parvati, Shiva. They all come together and they create Kartikeya. And you get a lot of these kind of stories. So we will go into these a little more in detail. But we need to know that each of this is because of the way the historical landscape of the Indian subcontinent changed over a period of time. Depending on which was taking shape, yeah, whether it was the Shivaism that was taking precedence, then you had Shiva claiming Kartikeya. If it was the Vaishnavite traditions, then you had another claimant for Kartikeya. Like that, we had many claimants for the parentage of Kartikeya. Now, Kartikeya across the world, if you see, for example, in China, the Vaidyapusa is a very famous deity in the Buddhist tradition. You go to Java in Indonesia, you go to Iran, the angel Shursh is Kartikeya. In Japan, opposite every Buddhist monastery, opposite the statue of Buddha in a monastery, you will find Kartikeya. The statue is there. He is supposed to be the protector of the monastery. So this is the Buddhist tradition which absorbed Kartikeya and incorporated it in their culture. Now, if you see what happened, now let us go back to see what exactly happened. You have heard about the Kushan dynasty, and Kanishka was the most famous king in the Kushan dynasty. Kushan dynasty was the first to really give Kartikeya a very high position. They printed coins of Kartikeya. Here you can see the peacock. You can see Kartikeya here. You can see here Kartikeya riding the peacock. And if you see, he has got the veil here, the spear in his hand here. You can see images of Kartikeya. Now, the Kushan dynasty actually used Kartikeya to project their war god image. The Kushans actually were coming from the more Central Asian part of this South Asia. They were coming more from the central part, and when they came with this. They came into the Indus Valley civilization, but they promoted Kartikeya as the war god. This is the first time you actually see Kartikeya being made into a deity that is as important as Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma. Yeah. Again, when you take this into the sorry, the script is wrong here, but if you take this into the Gupta era, yeah, if you take this into the Gupta period, the title is wrong here. It should be Kartikeya in the Gupta era. You will again see they minted coins, and Kumara Gupta. Kumara is the name of Kartikeya. and he took his name after Kartikeya. Kumaragupta, for example, if you see the statues from his time, Kartikeya is a highly revered deity. So the entire Gupta period, the Kushan dynasty, all over India, we had a lot of the Kartikeya as the main deity. So right up to this line here, where we see the North Indian Kartikeya as a North Indian deity, you will find this tradition. Kartikeya in the Vedas himself, he is mentioned. Kumara is mentioned 14 times. Kumara is mentioned in the Rig Veda in 14 different instances. And Kartikeya was a Vedic deity, just like Agni and Vayu and all these forces of nature you had. Kartikeya was a force of nature, force of creation. And till the Gupta Empire sort of died off, Kartikeya was actually a North Indian deity. It is only after the Gupta Empire sort of died off, and then the Satavahana Empire, the southern empires, the Cholas and the Cheras and the Pallavas and these kingdoms, they became very powerful later in this period. And that is when Kartikeya took on the character of a South Indian deity. Yeah. So understanding this gives us a kind of a overview of where exactly Kartikeya is in our tradition. हमारे इतिहास में कार्तिकेय का स्थान किधर है? तो पूरा अपना वैदिक सिविलाइजेशन में कार्तिकेय था. ऋग्वेदा में भी 14 बार जो है उनका नाम लिया गया है. फिर गौतम बुद्ध की टाइम से लेके गुप्ता एम्पायर, अपना जो कुमार गुप्ता और चंद्रगुप्ता, ये उनकी जो गुप्ता एम्पायर, वो पूरा एम्पायर जब तक खत्म हुआ, कार्तिकेय सिर्फ नॉर्थ इंडिया में ही था. उसके बाद ही वो साउथ में गया और आज भी साउथ में ही इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट पॉपुलर डेटीज. नाउ why is this like this? So here now let us go back to the understanding of the mythology. So when you look at the Skanda Purana, there is a lot that is talked about in the Skanda Purana about Kartikeya. So one of the stories that you hear about Kartikeya is that there was this demon, Tarakasura. Taraka. He was an Asura, but he had a boon and he could only be killed by somebody as powerful as Shiva. Now, Shiva had his problems because Shiva had lost Rati and Sati, sorry, and he had gone into, seclusion. He was so distraught by what had happened when his wife burnt herself out of humiliation that he became a recluse. So Taraka knew, usko pata tha ki Shiva is not going to marry. तो अगर शिवा उसका शादी नहीं होएगा तो उसका बच्चा कोई तो होने वाला नहीं है. And only the son of Shiva can be as powerful as Shiva. Nobody else can be as powerful as Shiva. If at all somebody is to be as powerful as Shiva, it has to be his son. तो वो तो होने वाला नहीं है. So the Asura had gone out of control. So in Mandala Vatika, we understood what these Asuras, Devas, what are these wave functions and how they balance each other. है ना? तो जब हम ब्रह्मांड की सृष्टि अपना मंडला में करते हैं, so you experience that how creation happened, right? How a creator will create opposing forces which balance each other, then only you have a sustainable universe, no? So sometimes the gods go crazy. और इसमें ऐसा ही होता है. At one point, Indra, who is the lord of all mankind, इंद्रलोक में जो ruler है, he goes haywire because of his ego. He goes haywire and he does something very stupid. Yeah. Now, as a result of that, Taraka is teaching him a lesson. So sometimes Asuras will teach gods a lesson, and sometimes gods will teach Asuras lesson. But we know through Mandala Vatika that these are just opposing wave functions. These opposing wave functions have to be there. Then only creation happens, and then only creation is interesting. So when Tarakasura goes haywire, तो उसको कंट्रोल करने के लिए you need to have something more powerful than him. And the only thing that is more powerful than him can be Shiva's offspring progeny. So people try to go and invoke Shiva कि इसको कैसे तो भी जो है आप उसको they want to get him to have a child, but Shiva is in mourning because he has lost Sati and he is in mourning. So they hatch a plot कि they try to disturb him. So Kamadev tries to disturb him because Parvati has already taken birth and she knows she is going to marry Shiva. But Shiva is in recluse. So she is there serving him. And then Kamadeva tries to do his jadoo. Shiva momentarily comes out, and looks at Parvati. But in his anger, when he realizes what Kamadeva has done, he lets forth his energy and burns that fellow down completely. Now, the seed of that, now it is said that is the seed of Shiva. So it is like the seed of Shiva was so hot that it was Agni who picked it up. Agni Deva उसको उठा के जो है भागने लगा, लेकिन उसको संभाल नहीं पाए. He could not hold on. Even Agni could not hold on to that. And then it was given to Vayu, or vice versa, depending on the version. Some versions they say Vayu picked it up first, couldn't hold on, and then gave it to Agni. But more versions say that Agni picked it up first, couldn't hold on. It was given to Vayu. Then Vayu, took it far away very quickly. But he also could not hold it because it was so hot. So he dropped it in a particular place in the river Ganga, where there were certain reeds that were growing, plants that were growing. And there, on a lotus, the waters of Ganga took that to a lotus, where the seeds, the 6 seeds were there, and 6 babies formed in that on lotus. 6 lotus they formed. So that was the picture that you saw there. And then the Kritikas, who is the constellation of Pleiades, the 6 Kritikas apparently came there, and each of them fell in love with each of the child. They took that. And then Parvati, meanwhile, knew that Shiva had spilt his seed. She knew it would go somewhere and create an offspring. So she came to the same place. And when she saw these 6 children, she took them and made them into one. And that's how you got Shanmukha, the one with the 6 faces, and so on. So that is one story that goes on. And then Kartikeya was then taken to Shiva. And then Shiva blessed him as the commander-in-chief of the Devas. And then, of course, he fought with the Tarakasura, and of course, he destroyed the Asuras, and that's how the mythology goes. But what is interesting is that in another version of this, it is completely different, where Agni himself is told to be the father. Now you can see here, it depends on which time in the history timeline we look at. In that, it is Agni himself who becomes the father of Kartika. And how does that happen? Apparently, Vishwamitra is doing a yajna. And at the end of the yajna, and he has invited the 7 sages, yeah, the Saptarishiyon ko invite kiya hai, और यज्ञ हुआ. And last mein, as Agni is leaving the yajna, he sees the wives of the 7 Saptarishis. And he gets very enamored by them. So he just becomes, he runs away into the forest. He doesn't even finish the yajna. He runs away into the forest, and he is like totally, coveted by these 7 women. And he wants to, have a relationship with these women. Now, Daksha, who is the daughter of a Rakshasa, and she actually realizes that Agni has this, now she has got a, not Daksha, I'm sorry. This is Swaha, who is the daughter of the Rakshasa Daksha. Swaha realizes what Agni wants. Therefore, she takes she shapeshifts. She becomes every one of those 7 Saptarishis' wives except one. She becomes 6 because Ansuya is untouchable. She is absolutely chaste. So nobody can, even impersonate her. So she becomes, and she actually has a relationship with Agni in the form of these 7 in the form of these 6 wives. 7th Ansuya was not touched. So, and then this 6 babies are born, and then that becomes Kartikeya. So different interpretations you have on all this, and then the folklore interpretation. So when you put all these things together, we find that instead of getting so confused with the human interpretation, the Puranic interpretation of Kartikeya, we must go to the Vedic interpretation of Kartikeya, which is what we do in Mandala Vatika. So we don't worry too much about the mythology and the history and all that. We go directly into what does the mandala of Kartikeya, what is the rahasya, what are the secrets embedded in the mandala of Kartikeya. So when you draw the mandala of Kartikeya, you will discover the secrets that are there. Though secrets not based on the Puranic traditions, the secrets based on how order is restored whenever one wave function in the universe becomes too strong that the universe itself starts to wobble. Then how that wave function is brought under control by creating a wave function that is stronger than that. But then that strong wave function can also destroy. And this is what we saw when Durga Devi manifested herself in her full form. After destroying all the asuras, she went berserk because, and then, it required all the gods to come together to just cool her down. Similarly, with Kartikeya also same thing. When you create one energy form which is more stronger to suppress something that's gone haywire, after that you have to cool it down. And that is why in this tradition, in the South Indian tradition, we have got Kartikeya, who is a balanced individual. He is not a celibate. He's got 2 wives. And who is this? Who are the 2 wives? Devasena, okay, and Valli. Yeah. So what is that? Gurudev has explained it beautifully in the 3 rahasyas, the 3 secrets of Murugan. And of course, these all of you have a good idea. Otherwise, I recommend highly that you repeat that course whenever it is held. So that understanding that Kartikeya was originally just a wave function. a tattva that was created to bring balance in the universe. You may give it the name that there was a Tarkasura. Actually, what is Tarkasura? Tarkasura was another wave function. It was another tattva. Because for the creator, the Asura or the Deva, they are both opposing forces and both are required to create this universe. It is only in our judgment we say that we should be like Devas, we should not be like Asuras. Yeah. But the Asuras will have their own interpretation. If you go to the followers of Bali, for example, in Kerala, Mahabali. Now, Mahabali was considered to be an Asura. But if you go to his followers, they will say he was one of the most evolved souls. Ravan, for example, there are a lot of Ravan's followers who say that he was one of the most advanced, knowledgeable people on this universe. He knew the Vedas, he knew music, he knew everything. He was that evolved. So for the creator, it is not that one is good or one is bad, but they are balancing forces. So in the January Mandala, the Murugan Mandala Vatika course, what we will do is, we will not get confused by all this. So today I have given you, because of the way Hinduism got challenged by Buddhism. Then you had the Puranic tradition, which sort of tried to integrate the folklore and the people back into the fold. So every time Kartikeya took different colors. His stories kept changing. His parents kept changing. So we know that is what has happened, but that is only the man's interpretation of a tattva. But what we will explore in Mandala Vatika, in Murugan Mandala Vatika in January, is his tattva as the Guru tattva. You know, this in Murugan Rahasya, Gurudev speaks about how he is a Jnani because he even teaches Shiva the meaning of Om. Yeah? He reveals the meaning of Om to Shiva. Shiva himself did not know because Shiva was one component of Om. You know this, right? So Shiva, being a component of Om, could not understand the significance of Om. It's only Kartikeya who whispered into his ear. And you know that story, you know, he said, if I have to teach you, then I have to be your guru. I can't be down and you are up. Then the father lifts him, you know, puts him on his shoulder, and then he whispers into his ear the meaning of Om. And Parvati is so thrilled, you know, and she gives him that, that title, and she gives him the weapons, no, of enlightenment. So we will explore that tattva. So like I said, this entire Mandala Vatika science is coming to us only because of the grace of our enlightened master. Yeah, because it's only the Guru Tattva that can bring this kind of knowledge and experience to us, right? So in January, we will explore that in the mandala of Kartikeya. And trust me, I have seen a lot of mandalas. Yeah. And we have already done 3 mandalas. We have already done. We have done Varamahalakshmi Mandala. We've done Siddhi Vinayaka Mandala. We've done Durga Mandala. And we all know what the mandalas look like. But trust me when I tell you, the Murugan Mandala, the Kartikeya Mandala, is the most beautiful mandala I have ever seen in my life. It is just spectacular. And the geometry is so precise that the entire secret of who Kartikeya is embedded so beautifully, along with the Bij mantras. Yeah. Many of you know about this, no? Like Saravana Bhava. Yeah. Like, I don't know, in Dubai, there used to be a very famous restaurant called Saravana Bhavan. Yeah. Saravana Bhava. In the mandala, we have Saravana Bhava. And it is the only Mandala Vatika where I have the Bij mantras that are inscribed in the mandala. In all the other mandalas we did, it was just sacred geometry, right? So here that Saravana, and you know, Pujya Gurudev composed a beautiful, beautiful song on Saravana Bhava. It's a very beautiful song. Yeah. And in fact, what happens this time is that the Pushpa Puja, it is actually Pushpa and Patra Puja of Murugan, which will be taught in January. It is actually for the first time it is being recorded after maybe, I don't know, hundreds of years. And the pairing of the Pushpa Patra to the Namavali, the names of Kartikeya, it was given not in the Vedic tradition. Very surprisingly, in the Vedic tradition, you don't have it. Like in Durga Pushpa Puja, it is from our Vedic tradition. In Kartikeya, in Murugan, it is not from the Vedic tradition. It comes from the Siddhar tradition. So just like we had rishis in our Vedic tradition, we had enlightened saints who were called Siddhars. Siddhars means they were people who had Siddhas. Yeah. So in the Agama tradition, we have the Siddhars. And there is a rishi whose name is called Bogar Siddhar. Okay, those who might have done Sayam course, which Gurudev offers, there is a pranayam called Bogar pranayam. Yeah, that Bogar Rishi, Bogar Siddhar, was one of the Siddhars who experienced the tattva of Kartikeya. Yeah, so if you go to the seaside temple of Muruga in Tamil Nadu, you will find there is a special place where the Bogar Siddhar, after he went to China and came back, his last resting place is in that temple. And it is he who had done that pairing. And it is with great difficulty that this pairing has been extracted, and it is composed to a very beautiful raga, yeah, which will be actually taught to you during the January Mandala Vatika. So all interesting things happening in January. And the idea of this particular webinar was basically to give you an idea that if you try Googling Kartikeya, Skanda, Shanmukha on the net, it's highly confusing. And just to tell you why that confusion has happened and what are we going to do in January. January, we are going to explore it purely at the creation level. So at something like the Nasadiya Sukta level, where the creator himself is creating the universe. At that level, we will explore Kartikeya. Yeah. So I will stop exactly on time, 9:55. So if there are any questions, can you explain in English? I have been explaining everything in English. Anything that I have said in Hindi is only a repetition of what I have said in English. Yeah. So that is for some people here who may not be that conversant. But if you have any questions, please put it on the chat and I will try and answer that. Otherwise, please spread the word for the January Murugan Mandala Vatika. Trust me, it is going to be a very, very exciting exploration. And will the recording be available? For sure, Vipul. We will make sure that I'll put this on YouTube and share it with you on the group so that you can share it with your friends. And how long is this Mandala Vatika? It's the same. It is 4 days and 2 hours each. And and the recording will be there for 24 hours. So no issues. In one word, what is Murugan Tattva about? Murugan Tattva is Guru Tattva. If in one word I have to capture, it is Guru Tattva. Yes, what are the timings? She has put it. What meaning of Om did Kartikeya tell Shiva? You'll have to wait till January. I will definitely give that. What are the requirements as in geometry box, etc.? You'll be getting a mail very shortly. Early next week, I'll be sending you a mail, giving you a lot of details, including the link for the recording of this webinar, which you can share with people. But go through this, yeah, because before the course, if you have not attended this particular webinar, do tell your friends to go through it. Needed to do 3 mandalas before doing the January? No, not at all. Each Mandala Vatika is complete in itself. Whether you have done the other 3 mandalas or not, it is immaterial. The course will be complete in itself, and I start from the very basics. We go to the scientific understanding, we go through the Vedic understanding, then we go into the link between sacred geometry, sound, and plants, and everything will be done. What benefit can we expect experiencing this? Kartikeya and Subramanya Swami is the same. Yes, of course, they are all the names, the Namavali. You got 108 names of Murugan, Kartikeya, and one of them is Subramanya Swami. What benefits? Okay, this is a good question, because why should you do the January course? Now, the world is going through a tumultuous chaos. COVID, and in Durga Mandala Vatika, we saw the relationship between COVID and chaos theory, right? Which was there in the mandala. So now by January, the world has come to understand that, okay, we seem to have somehow got over this. The vaccines are going to be there, and we are going to move ahead with the learnings. Of course, we are not going to make the same stupid mistakes we were making earlier, hopefully, but we are going to move forward. Now, to move forward, you need courage. Yeah, you need courage. Yeah. Therefore, when do you have courage? When you have knowledge. Suppose you want to take an exam or you want to go for an interview. When do you have the courage? When are you totally confident about giving an exam or giving an interview? When you're sure about your knowledge, right? Kartikeya Mandala, Murugan Mandala is something that connects you to the knowledge through Guru Tattva. So Guru Tattva, Kartikeya, and your life. How to invoke knowledge into your life so that you have the confidence to move into a new era. 2021 is going to be a new era. 2020, we don't even know when it came, when it finished. But 2021 is when you need a lot of courage. So that courage through knowledge is what Kartikeya gives you. Geometry will be simpler this time. Like I said, we have got hacks for everybody. So if you have any problem with drawing the mandala, I give you the hack, and you can just enjoy the course as much as anybody else. Any relation between the mandalas of Ganesha and Kartikeya, both are sons of Shiva? Yes, of course. The primordial geometry will start from the same. But I have never seen a mandala that is so spectacularly beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I mean, they look very different, but is there relationships? Yes, of course, there is relationships. Yeah. Interesting to see 10,000 BC history from the perspective of anthropology. Yes, even for me, it was very fascinating. And I kept this webinar because I said, when I try to Google, it's just so confusing. So I thought everybody else will be having the same problem. So I said, let me sort of put everything down, not by cutting and pasting from Wikipedia, but really understanding the depth of what happens on the timeline. And do we need experience of doing any mandala course? Absolutely not, Amita. You can do this mandala in January as a standalone mandala. Please don't worry. It does not require any previous mandala experience. Yeah. Each mandala course is complete in itself. Yeah. So 10 p.m. we are on the dot. I like to always start and finish on time. I thank my wonderful team of Kritika, Megha, Divya, Radhik, Archana ji, and everybody who are continuously supporting me and making sure that we have a wonderful course ahead in January. And I thank each one of you for attending this. Please share my links with your friends, and really look forward to exploring the Murugan Mandala Vatika in January. Thank you, one and all. Jai Gurudev.